Thanks for that. I like to think of myself as sort of more a refugee from the Beltway because I worked literally inside government and Parliament from 1996 to 2004. And that's why it was such an honour to be asked to judge the government open source section tonight, or be the lead judge for it with the other judges, because it's sort of, I came into Parliament at a great time. 96 was just when the internet was catching on to the mass market, and you were having conversations with ministers about, no, we want people, we want the public to be able to email you, and we actually want you to use email to communicate. And believe it or not, they were very resistant. I mean, now you've got MPs tweeting non-stop. You really can't keep them quiet on the internet. Yes, Claire, I am looking at you. I'm proud of one little fact. I was the last Mac user in Parliament. When I started there in 96, I had the only Macintosh, and I finally succumbed to the Borg, as I referred to it, after 12 months, where it was just too much hassle being the only one outside. But there were a lot of challenges in those early times getting government, especially some of the MPs, used to the idea of open source and open data. Some techos decided, as techos often do, hey, we've got a website, let's start sticking useful content on there. And they stuck the parliamentary order paper on to have the then clerk's office tell them it's copyright to the clerk's office and that it's actually a breach of the State Sector Act to have put the order paper on the internet. So you can see this sort of change that's been in just the last 9 or 10 years between then and us. We spent years trying to get Firefox as an optional extra onto, well, to be blunt, just my computer if I wanted it. And I finally got one of them to say, look, you are the IT manager for a staff of 100, etc. We trust you, you can have it. The way of doing it is they gave me administrator rights, and possibly the trusts part they got wrong, because I discovered that was administrator rights for every computer, and I could go onto all my colleagues' and workmates' computer and give them Firefox also. So when I left there, I think they were very surprised to find around half of our users had Firefox on there, even though it was officially banned. And I think some of the MPs today, around it's not open source, are still battling that Parliament won't connect their iPads up to the parliamentary network. I've been very amused by what the MPs' response has been to this, which is a workaround. They forward all their parliamentary emails to Gmail so they could still do it. So we've now, we've got progress. So our entire parliamentary mail has now been outsourced to Google. Thank you, Google. I'm sure that's very secure. Much of what we see today, and I'm going to go through them in a minute, of open source and government, I just wouldn't have even believed 6 years ago. I think government sector has been a challenge for quite some time, but in the last few years, if anything, I'd actually say there's parts of government which are truly leaving the private sector for dead with their approach there. So the final comment before I go on to the awards is, the comment I remember best about the challenge of getting MPs and government onto this whole internet open source complex was when I had a staff member come to me and say, I've just had an MP make an unusual request to me. What is it? He asked me to print out a copy of the internet for him to read. Now, I won't name the MP concerned. All I'll say is that was happy being the member for Tauranga. Moving on to the final, and I'm happy he is no longer, but we won't talk about that. Moving on to the finalists. The first finalist is Digital NZ. Digital NZ's an initiative to make all New Zealand digital content easy to find here. When we say all, we don't just mean government data. We include them, but private sector, community groups, any data they can find, they're including. They have a number of services, with the most significant being their search service that takes metadata from around 100 organisations for images, documents and media, and they operate it with an open API and encourage others to build on top of it. Digital NZ is run out of the National Library of New Zealand, or as we should now refer to them, the book section of Department of Internal Affairs. Actually, Maybe it's just me, but is there a little problem with National Library, who are the ones about spread knowledge, open access to everyone, and DAA, who run the government filter, being the same body now? But never mind, I'm sure it will work out. Anyway, they're the first central government agency to provide a full API service with keys, metrics and throttling. They run supporting websites with open source software, including a service that allows the public to build their own New Zealand search engine. Digital NZ's enabled more than 100 organisations to provide an API to their content metadata, and has enabled schools and students to find New Zealand material that really was impossible to find in the past. So, finalist number 1, Digital New Zealand. Finalist number 2 is IRD, for their use of Moodle. They've been an early adopter of Moodle. They deployed it as its learning management system in 2006, and they've been a leader amongst the government agencies in its use of it. They've got 6,200 staff accessing 1,200 courses, face-to-face and via e-learning, and they've been very consistent in championing Moodle to other agencies, initiating engagements to have common business functionality, and supporting other agencies that are also now taking a journey along Moodle. All their internal training is now accessed through it, and all external training is booked through Moodle too. Their use of Moodle is recognised across the public sector as a benchmark for LMS deployment and implementation. The academic underpinnings of the Moodle software led Inland Revenue to develop with Catalyst additional functionality to support internal business requirements, and they sought development partners from other government agencies. In the long run, and to some extent the short term, the non-financial benefits of working with other agencies will be much greater than the considerable cost savings they've achieved. So finalist number 2, IRD. Finalist number 3 is NIWA. Now, if you read certain blogs' comments, you'd think NIWA is part of a global conspiracy to convince the world that in a few years' time, Wellington will have warmer weather. But that is not all they do. They have been doing the Ocean Survey 2020 portal. This was designed to enable expert and public access to data and reports from the Bay of Islands 2020 survey. This is the largest and broadest marine survey ever carried out in New Zealand, funded through LINZ and contracted to NIWA. NIWA contracted Silverstripe to develop the web portal for the survey, and it's very proudly both open source and open data. It extends the open data model in that not only is the survey data discoverable and downloadable, but so are the presentations, the maps, and other information that accompanies the data. This makes the survey relevant, accessible, and even hackable by the general public, rather than just a collection of information accessible only to the technocracy with the ability to analyse the data themselves. So finalist number 3, NIWA. Finalist number 4 is the IRD again. You might ask, why are the IRD listed twice? They threatened to audit the judges. No, we did have a debate, and we thought 2 great projects from the same agency. They clearly were both in the top 4. So they've come for their second nomination with their online consultation tool. I have to say the innovative use IRD make of open source almost, and I stress almost, makes me feel good about paying tax. Traditionally, IRD's Policy Advice Division have consulted through the distribution of large documents, the 200-page PDFs, expecting people to read the proposed policy changes and respond with formal structured submissions. Well, this works well for accounting and law firms, but it's not exactly friendly to the public, who have quite a large part in the tax system. So the policy team said they want to consult with a wide section of the population on changes to student loans, and out of that was born the Student Loans Online Forum. This was a huge success. It got nationwide acclaim, being a groundbreaking step towards e-democracy and more citizen-focused consultation. Ministers, senior management, everyone heaped their praise on the concept and the need for a better and more efficient consultation on policy. The first forum got delivered in 2009 by customising an open source forum tool, Vanilla. In January 2010, the policy division wanted bigger and more wide-ranging online consultation initiative. So this time, with skills from the first forum, they changed their attention to building a reusable, easy administrative framework for a consultation model that now could be used by all of government. Surprise, building the website that was accessible to all, where people could relate to the changes that only affect them personally, so you don't have to wade through all of the consultation if only part of it affects you, proved to be very popular. IRD wanted to develop a tool which could be rethemed, modified with ease, maintained and moderated by non-technical users. Really, they wanted to build the first building block in the all-of-government toolkit. And the outcome was their simplifying customer interaction online consultation. So, nominee finalist number 4, IRD again. Now, somewhere there should be an envelope. It is the right envelope. And the winner of open source use in government is IRD for the use of Moodle. If those responsible would like to come up to the stage. And pose for a photo.
Congratulations.
And please.
Wow. I have to say, I haven't prepared. I'm in fabulous company in the nominations of the finalists for this award, and particularly the web team, who I think have been unfairly pipped at the post here. And I think, to be fair, this award probably actually belongs to every other government department who said, oh yes, Moodle sounds like a good idea. Someone else has fixed all the bugs, let's use it. So I think in this sense, this isn't really a victory for us. This is more a victory for open source in the use of government, and particularly for the Moodle software, which is really, really good indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Austen. Thank you, Austen. Thank you, David.